I only wanted my cat to get off the kitchen counter. That's all. Just a simple, ordinary Tuesday request. So I looked at him and said his name, Oliver. He didn't run, he didn't flinch, he didn't do any of the things a normal cat does when caught somewhere he shouldn't be. Instead, he sat up a little straighter, turned his head, looked me dead in the eyes like I was the one who'd done something wrong, and then he opened his mouth.
Hey, are you hungry again?
RRWWW, not a
You just
meow,
had breakfast,
not a
didn't
little
you, you
chirp
little
or a polite
rascal?
complaint. A full, dramatic, chest-deep yell, like he'd been rehearsing it his whole life for exactly this moment. I froze, said his name again, a little firmer this time, Oliver. He answered louder. For about 10 seconds straight, the two of us stood there in that kitchen, going back and forth. Me saying his name, him yelling something back that, if I had to guess, meant something like absolutely not. My wife was in the doorway by then, one hand over her mouth, laughing so hard she couldn't get a full breath in. I want to be clear, I did not win that argument. Oliver stayed exactly where he was, tail flicking, staring me down like he was daring me to try again. We adopted Oliver 8 months ago from a shelter 2 towns over. The paperwork called him vocal and strong-willed. At the time, I thought that just meant he'd meow when he was hungry. I had no idea what I was actually signing up for, because from that very first afternoon, something in our house changed. Oliver didn't just meow, he responded to everything, to his name, to the vacuum, to the mail carrier, to a sneeze, to the sound of the fridge opening. It didn't matter what you said or did, Oliver had something to say about it, and it never sounded like a normal cat sound. It sounded like commentary, like opinion, like the start of a conversation he fully expected you to lose. At first we thought it was funny in the way a lot of cat quirks are funny, something you mention to a neighbor over the fence, something you half remember to tell your sister on the phone. We didn't yet understand that Oliver wasn't just being loud, he was arguing, on purpose. And once he realized how much attention it got him, once he saw my wife bent over laughing and me standing there defeated in my own kitchen, something clicked behind those orange cat eyes. He liked it. He liked winning. That first counter incident should have been a one-time thing. A funny story for later. Instead, it became the opening move in something much bigger, something that would eventually get the whole family involved, pull in the neighbors, and turn our quiet house into the loudest, most ridiculous place on the block. Because Oliver wasn't done proving his point, he hopped down off the counter that day, slow and deliberate, like he was choosing to leave rather than being told to. He walked past my ankles without so much as a glance. And right before he disappeared around the corner into the living room, he let out one last, short meow, quieter this time, almost smug. Like he was saying this isn't over. He was right. From that day forward, every single conversation in our house with Oliver became an argument, and none of us, not me, not my wife, not the neighbors who would soon be knocking on our door thinking something was wrong, had any idea how far this cat was willing to take it. It started as a joke, my wife's idea, actually. We were all sitting around the living room on a Sunday afternoon, and somebody, I think it was her sister, said, "I bet none of us could make him stop talking." That was all it took. We pulled chairs into a circle. Oliver sat in the middle, tail wrapped around his paws, looking at each of us like he already knew exactly what was about to happen. The rule was simple. Whoever could get Oliver to stop responding, even for 30 seconds, won. My mother-in-law went first, using her usual soft voice. He gave her a few polite little meows and settled down for a second, just long enough for her to think she had it. Then he let out one more, right on cue, like he was reminding her the round wasn't over yet. My wife tried next, talking to him low and steady the way she always does. He answered every single sentence. The kids tried baby talk. He matched their energy back, chirping and trilling like he was having the time of his life. Then it was my turn. I didn't even get a full word out before he cut me off. Nobody won, not one of us. Oliver argued with every single person in that circle, one after another, like he'd been training for this exact moment his whole life. And then something happened that none of us expected. I don't know what came over me. Maybe just messing around, maybe testing a theory, but I put my head in my hands and pretended to cry. Just a joke, a bit. Oliver stopped mid-yell. He went quiet. He hopped down, walked straight over, and touched his paw gently to the side of my face. Then he let out this one tiny soft meow, nothing like the yelling, nothing like the arguing, just quiet, just gentle. The whole room went still. My wife actually teared up a little. Nobody said anything for a second. Then I started laughing. I couldn't help it, and the second I did, Oliver's whole demeanor changed right back. He sat up straight, gave one last dramatic yell like he'd been personally offended by my trick, and stalked off toward the kitchen with his tail high in the air. Everyone lost it. But something had shifted, at least for me. Underneath all that noise, all that arguing, there was clearly something else going on. He wasn't just performing, he was paying attention. He knew the difference between a real moment and a fake one, and for those few seconds, he'd chosen to be gentle instead of loud. A few nights later, we got a knock at the door. It was our neighbors from 2 houses down, looking a little concerned. They said they'd heard shouting, raised voices, back and forth, going on for a while, and wanted to make sure everything was okay. I opened the door mid-laugh, already knowing exactly what they'd heard. Right on cue, Oliver came trotting up behind me and let out a yell directly at the neighbors, like he was personally offended they'd interrupted. For a second, the neighbors just stared. Then they burst out laughing too. Word got around the block pretty quickly after that. Within a couple weeks, people we barely knew were smiling and saying things like, "Oh, you're the family with the cat who argues," like it was something to be proud of. Oliver had a reputation now. The whole neighborhood knew him as the cat who never lost. The cat who always had something to say and never once backed down. But none of us, not me, not my wife, not a single person in that circle that Sunday, expected how quiet our house would feel the very first time he didn't answer at all. One evening, everything just stopped. I walked into the kitchen and said his name, same as always. Oliver. Nothing. I figured he hadn't heard me, so I said it again, a little louder this time. Still nothing. I found him curled up on the windowsill, awake, blinking slowly at the birds outside, completely silent, no yell, no opinion, not even a small complaint about dinner being late. At first, honestly, it was almost peaceful, a quiet evening for once. But by the second hour, that quiet started to feel wrong. My wife noticed it too. She came in from the other room and said, "Is it just me, or is it really quiet in here?" It wasn't just her. We went through dinner without a single argument, no back and forth over the table, no yelling at the vacuum when I pulled it out to clean up, no commentary when the mail carrier walked by, which, after 8 months, was almost unheard of. By bedtime the house felt strange, too still, like something was missing, even though nothing was actually wrong. That's when it hit me. We missed it. We actually missed the noise. I sat down on the floor next to the windowsill where Oliver was curled up, and I didn't say his name this time. I just sat there for a minute, close enough that he could feel me there if he wanted to. Then, softly I said, "Hey buddy." He opened his eyes, looked at me, and slowly, without any hurry at all, he got up, stretched, and walked over. He pressed his head gently against my hand, the way he does sometimes when he wants to be close but doesn't have anything to argue about. Then he let out one small, quiet meow, barely more than a whisper compared to what we were used to. Nobody laughed this time. My wife, standing in the doorway, just smiled, the kind of smile that comes with a little bit of relief in it. We sat there for a while, the 3 of us, in a house that had finally gone quiet in a good way instead of a worrying one. The next morning, everything went right back to normal. I walked into the kitchen, poured my coffee, and half out of habit, half just to see, I looked over at him and said, "Who's the boss around here?" Oliver stood up immediately, squared his shoulders, looked me dead in the eye, and let out the loudest, most dramatic yell I think he'd ever produced in his life. Then he turned and walked away, tail high, like he'd just won an argument I hadn't even realized we were having. I couldn't help it. I laughed until my coffee nearly spilled. That's Oliver for you. One night quiet enough to worry us. The next morning, loud enough to remind us exactly who runs this house. These days we catch it all the time. Oliver arguing with the birds outside the window. Oliver having a full debate with the vacuum cleaner. Oliver answering Grandma in his gentlest voice, then turning around and yelling at his own reflection in the hallway mirror like it started something. Some cats communicate in soft purrs and quiet company. Oliver was never going to be that kind of cat. He picked full-scale debates instead, about everything and nothing, every single day. He never said an actual word in his life, but somehow, every single one of us in that house always knew exactly what he was trying to say. Most nights now, he curls up right beside me, purring low and steady, completely at peace, right up until morning comes, and the next argument begins.